Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my Call of Duty Advanced Warfare video walkthrough. It's on veteran difficulty, and this is mission 10. It's called Biolab. Funny story, that right there, me getting hit by the chopper, is the first and only time the chopper has ever shot me. Ever. And I've beaten this level now a few times. My first time on veteran, never hit me once. As soon as I start recording, boom, hits me in the face, nearly kills me. It's just that insanity, man. And if you want to see a game do bizarre things, hit record, because I guarantee every time you do it, something happens you weren't expecting. And it's just that interesting, you know, sod's law of when you're trying to capture anything. Oh, I got hit again. Check that out. You see what I mean? Never happens ever. It's weird. I thought this was interesting too. You're following Gideon here at this point, and it's effectively a stealth mission that goes into a little bit of shooting at the end. It's the longest mission in the game as well, clocking in at around 21 minutes on my timeline here. But this mechanic right now, we're climbing up the roots of this tree, and we're holding left trigger, right trigger to do it, very similar to the ice climbing section on Modern Warfare 2, which was a really good sequence. I think Modern Warfare 2 is a great game. I couldn't get behind the multiplayer changes, and it ruined it for me, because it became more about the air support than it did the guns, and that game had some great guns. But the sequence here, you're going to be using your cloak, and God, you feel like such a predator when you're doing it as well. I love the fact he touches it on his arm before he does it. I think that's beautiful. But how the cloak works is, when you're not moving, it slowly regens. When you do move, it drains quite quickly. If you turn it off, it will regenerate very fast, but obviously there's a risk of turning it off with the delay of turning it back on and everything else. And you're going to be following Gideon and pretty much doing everything he does. It's a very simple sequence that can be messed up very easily just by negligence on your part. You know, laziness is what catches me out most. I went back through the game to get the intel, and these were the sections where I fucked up the most on, because you just kind of don't want to do it a second time, you know. That's the only... There are double-sided sword sequences which involve heavily scripted, like lethargy on the player's part. Like right now, you have to wait until he gives you the instruction, but I think you can actually melee this guy before it. But most of this area is just listening to instructions and waiting. And the first time is great because you don't know what's happening. There's adrenaline that comes with it. It's a nice change of pace. It's a very good precursor to the violence that's to come. And it's a much needed respite from what you've been doing. But when you come back to it, it's like a lot of things in games where when you do a second playthrough, you get diminished returns on certain moments, you know. The corridor in Metal Gear Solid 4 is one of the most famous scenes in that game, where Snake essentially kills himself to get through this irradiated corridor to save the world. And it's a fantastically epic and emotional and amazing scene, and it's awesome. But when you've done it a few times, you're like, what the fuck, dude? Can I just get past this bit, please? I understand it's very hard, and Raiden's having a really nice dickfest fight with Vamp, but I kind of want to get to the part where I play instead of holding forward or tapping, which I can't quite remember how that sequence goes. It's been a while. But if a section as awesome as that one can turn into a source of frustration for the player, it needs to be analysed in that way for future playthroughs, and it needs to be thought through. And in my last walkthrough, I kept saying if I'm ever a game dev, or if I ever make a game, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to have this. And I might as well just say, in Backseat Game Dev, which is a series that I'm working on currently, and I say working on currently, every so often I get quite lazy. I have a great idea and I want to make it, but I'm too busy doing other things that it gets left very late, and that's what this one is suffering for. As it stands, I have a few games where I've written down notes on exactly what I would change. Effectively, I've written patch notes for a few games, and all I need to do is get some footage from that game for me to talk over and to relay it when I'm talking about specific things, and that's it. It's very simple. But I haven't done it because I'm editing this, I'm commentating this, I'm editing Korra, I'm editing Wonderful 101, I'm making the bloody thumbnails, I'm thinking about Splinter Cell, I'm thinking about going to see my girlfriend and spending time away from all of this, and, you know, all that other stuff. My parents are going away. Bonfire Night is ruining potential progress, and, You know, there's a ton of stuff happening right now that I want to do away from YouTube. Like there's the Canada Cup happening for Street Fighter 4, and Punko's gone across, and Punko uses Seth, and I am a Seth main. Very bad one, so it's really awesome to watch Punko show me how the character's meant to be used. And I've got a ton of shit on my hard drive that needs watching. I've finally got up to date with, you know, Walking Dead, which I haven't watched. There's American Horror Story, which I haven't watched. There's Orange is the New Black, which I haven't watched. I've got a shit ton of films I want to watch. Like, it's hilarious just how little time you truly have, you know, when you look at it. And it's crazy, man. It's super crazy, because I'm just... Life is busy for everyone, and you don't realise until you take a step back and think, wow, I have all this time, yet I have no time. It's insane. Be very careful of this blue laser, by the way. It will see you through your cloak, so you have to avoid it, but it's not that difficult as long as you know what you're doing. But back to the tangent. If I was a game developer, I would design two very specific things in my game. To me, they seem simple. I have no idea how difficult they are architecture-wise or performance-wise, because the one thing that happens in games that we almost never know about is the limitations, and the things that get lost or have to be sacrificed to adhere to the limitations of your memory, of your hardware, of your performance. You could have the most amazing looking effects on this planet, but if it kills your frame rate, you can't use it. So you have to make a middle ground sacrifice of lowering the effect or lowering the frame rate. And my dog's barking. So a lot of my backseat developer observations are going to come from a place of ignorance of the industry, but at the same time an optimism of that naivety as we breach this door. And the two things I would have... So, fireworks and dogs to contend with. This is turning into quite the fool's errand, but what can you do? You must push on. This might be the last that I do in this session. But the first one that I mentioned is for speedrunners, because if you make a decent enough game, speedrunners are going to try and speedrun it, and I think it's a fascinating subculture of gamers who essentially commit large amounts of their life to mastering a game and to breaking a game. And I would like to make a game that holds up rather well when it's been broken. So the first thing I would do is, on the chalkboard or the whiteboard or whatever it is in the first dev meeting, is every single moment where the player is not in control, a la a cutscene, a la an in-engine cutscene or a narrative, any moment where you are not playing the game, after the first playthrough, you can skip it. Even moments where you're moving around and stuff's happening, a little bit like this, all these moments, every single moment that is not directly gameplay, I would give the player the ability to remove. Even novelty moments that shouldn't really exist, that are there to serve a certain function, or a certain narrative element, or just to have a little fun distraction, I would give them the ability to completely skip it. A good example of this, Castlevania Lords of Shadows. There is a level on it where you play chess on this massive chessboard with these big pieces against a little vampire, and it can be a good, 5 to 10 minute match if you're having a good chess match with her. You can completely skip that shit if you don't want to do it. I don't want to play chess on a game. I don't. I'm not a big fan of chess. I'm shit at it. And you can just completely get rid of it. But the people who do like it can. And I think that's amazing. So that philosophy would translate for me into my entire game. I would want it built in such a way that speedrunners never have to sit through anything unskippable, any bullshit conversation, any stupid dialogue tree, anything. All of it would have to be as malleable as I could make it so that they can bend it, break it, crush it, and get that optimum performance, that super optimized run, because I think that would be really cool, and they would never be able to frustrate or blame the game for, a bad checkpoint making them watch bullshit, a bad area, like a tutorial at the beginning, like on Zelda, where you have to sit and listen to people talk to you for 5 hours, like, fucking hell, just let me play. None of that, gone completely. And then the second feature would be a given, and that is checkpoints. I would have a system where the checkpoints would be moderated as perfectly as I can make them for every single difficulty, tested ad nauseum, and then if that fails, I would probably implement a feature where the player can create their own checkpoints. at the sacrifice of the ones that the game gives you. So you could either take a hard checkpoint or lose the hard checkpoint to create your own checkpoint. And of course, I would limit it within reason so that you can't just cheese stuff, you know, to take out all the checkpoints on the easy bits and then just have an entire boss fight full of checkpoints every time you do a successful combo. You know, it'd have to be moderated and have some kind of logic system to it. But I just want a game where, A, you can't complain about not being able to do anything. So the game taking you out of it when you want to be in it. And secondly, you can never blame the game for cheating you with bad checkpoints. A la the beginning of Chapter 6 on Evil Within. A la Loom Chamber, God of War 2 Titan. You know, insert section that has had renownedly bad checkpoint on, and you have your result. Because checkpoints do not have to dictate difficulty. You can have a very well checkpointed game that is still legitimately difficult. Great example of this, last boss on Vanquish, God Hard mode. You have 2 to 5 minutes of the hardest fight of your entire life, and then they give you a checkpoint if you can kill one of those bogeys. It might be insanely difficult, but they don't make you do both of them. And if they did, it would be stupid, and it would be even harder, and it would be a bad checkpoint. But they acknowledge that what you've done warrants a reward, and you shouldn't be penalised because you aren't godly for 10 minutes without 10 minutes solid, no mistakes. Because nobody can do that except for those really crazy people that do. Which is an utter contradiction, but a fun one. But we're still pushing through this facility. This level's actually really simple. I'm using this gun mainly because I really like the BAL. The target finder doesn't hurt, it's just not the most fun to look at sometimes. And I'm using the boost as much as I can because it's a really fun method of travelling. It'd be nice if you could cancel the recovery on it, so you could get your gun up faster, or if there was a perk that enabled you to recover after the boost. A little bit quicker to make it more viable for being really fast and mobile, but I'm very interested to see where this game goes competitively, because I bet the competitive scene's it's either gonna be insane, and it's really gonna have the, you know, the skill gaps super noticeable, because you're gonna have people who can dive around like psychopaths and boost and jump and dash and still hit all the shots because they're ridiculously good at shooting. And then you're going to have those people that are a really good shot, but as soon as shit starts getting fast, they just can't quite do what they usually do. And it's really going to separate your ones with, shall we say, slower reflexes from the ones with the faster reflexes. And the reflexes on a professional level are all insane anyway, so it'll be interesting to see where that goes. But isn't there a playlist on this where you don't have the exosuit? So I think my biggest fear for competitive will be if it's that. Because if this game just goes back to standard, you know, Call of Duty, which a lot of people will probably like, I think it gets rid of all the potential new audience they could get with having it, you know, the way it is. Which is kind of batshit crazy if you think about it. But before I started doing this session, I was playing Street Fighter 4, and Street Fighter 4 frustrates me like almost no game ever has. And it frustrates me because the computer cheats, and you can't really defend it. You just can't. It's incredibly bad AI. And it's the same with a lot of fighting games. They have these super bosses, and the super bosses are essentially unpunishable, insanely damaging, stupidly high life assholes who read your inputs almost perfectly and counterpunch anything you do. You know, throw out a 3-frame jab, there you go, you're dead. And it's so stupid, and I don't mind that at all. I don't. I mind losing and then getting a game over screen and having to do an insane requirements to get back to it. And if you don't know what I'm speaking about, there are 3 achievements on Street Fighter 4. 2 of them come with Arcade Edition. 1 of them comes with standard Street Fighter 4. And the first one is for fighting Gouken at the end of the arcade mode. Second one is for fighting Evil Ryu. Third one is for fighting Oni. And what these all have in common is you have to beat arcade mode on the hardest difficulty, which there's like 9 difficulties, and hardest is essentially, we're going to read everything you do and DP it. reliably into something crazy. And if we ever get an ultra meter, you just wait. The frame you do anything, you've been ultra'd. That is all it is. And it's horrible. But that's not enough, you see. You can't lose a round, which means you can't ever lose against super perfect AI. You have to get at least one perfect, if you're doing it the way I'm doing it. You have to get a couple of first strikes, and then you have to finish on an ultra on an opponent, and you also have to finish Seth, who is the bullshit last boss, with an ultra. And once you've done all those things, you get to fight this super boss, who, if you lose, it puts you back to the menu. And I've got to this super boss twice now, and lost. And I'm at that point where I don't even want to try it again. It's so annoying. Legitimately horrendous. And this is an AST, so I use my slow motion to grenade him quite a lot, because I know there's an ammo just behind me, one in one of the crates, and I can just pull back all the stuff I'm using. And I love this grenade launcher. It's probably my favourite weapon in the campaign because it's hilarious. But there he goes, and then you can push forward and continue to kill. Just be careful here, there's a couple of weird spawns in this area where you walk into a room and there's a dude stood there and he insta-kills you. But I think if you get to those bosses, you should have infinite continues against them, because you've already done something ridiculous. Getting to them is ridiculous. Beating them is even more ridiculous, and there are tricks. You can use Zangief and Lariat spam, but I don't want to do that. I want to use my character, who is Seth. And unfortunately, Seth has got the lowest life, so whenever somebody trades with me, or whenever somebody punishes me, I feel it. And the other trick is, when you're about to lose, you can press start on the second player controller, and you can fight against no one, and then you can have another attempt, which is what I'm doing to get to it, because I'm not good enough to do it on my own, because it's just stupid. Like, I am playing as lame as I possibly can, because if I don't, the computer kills me. Because, if you don't know, Seth is a very rush-down heavy, momentum-based character. He is somebody who lives and dies by his ability to mix up and continuously put pressure on a player. Now, when you're up against a human, this is perfectly fine, because humans don't know what you're going to do. Humans can't block everything perfectly when you do things that they don't expect. Computer never, ever sees anything as unexpected. It knows everything the moment you press it, so you can never get those mix-ups. So instead of doing stuff I like doing, which is, you know, ambiguous crossovers and going into, am I going to try and get some kind of frame trap on you, am I going to do the SPD, instead, they just bullshit you. Like, the frame between a move, they'll do a Dragon Punch, or even worse, because the command throws, what are they, like fucking 2 frames, 1 frame command throws? And I said F then, and I hate doing that, I'm sorry. Throws. So they'll just do that. And in situations where you try to do stuff that no human can do, they'll just do that. And the entire campaign is not too bad, actually, because the computer's very difficult at dodging focus attacks. I don't know why. It seems like it would be the easiest thing in the world to punish, but they're very terrible at it. So if you focus attack, you can dash cancel, you can go into a juggle, into a combo, which I generally do, and then I focus attack on wake up, and because there's no delayed wake up in Arcade Edition, they generally fall for it again. However, if you're up against grapplers and you get too close, they'll just grab you in a command grab because it's faster. Sometimes they'll throw you if they're smart enough, and other times they'll just break it if they've got a move that breaks armor. So you do these crazy requirements, and I managed to do it to get to Seth, I should say. Losing 2 matches. One against an Abel, who, goodness me, that throw is dangerous. It comes out so fast and the computer's dangerous with him. And then the other was a Ken, and it was a bullshit Ken. Because as it stands, I'm not too sure on ultras at this moment. You might wonder why I'm talking about Street Fighter 4 on this guide. I'm really enjoying Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition. I'm going to buy Ultra, I think, because I want to have the updated version of everybody. At this moment in time, I'm learning fundamentals, I'm learning bread and butters, and I'm learning to A, not panic, B, punish effectively, and know when to punish, and C, any of the opportunities that I previously mashed on, I'm trying to learn the timings, because mashing is not good, obviously. And it's kind of slow, because I'm up against a computer, which is bullshit, because it's not nowhere near as intuitive or as interesting as fighting a player, because although players can absolutely destroy you, they don't know what you're going to do, so they can't just completely cheese you like the AI does. And I'm hoping to move on to people very soon, but at this moment in time, I just want to get my links together, I want to get comfortable, and I want to get a stick, because I'm playing on a controller that's a piece of shit, and the analogs are all arsey, and I'm doing okay on controller, so I'm really looking forward to learning to play on a stick, but that's for something else. I get to Seth, and Seth he's horrendous, but there are ways around him. Seth has this fantastic ability to anti-air you, because he has obviously a Dragon Punch, and the computer will anti-air amazingly well. Whenever he's close, he'll do the spinning pile driver. And the spinning pile driver is very fast and very hard to get away from, unless you know it's coming. And he'll teleport as well, and the computer teleports and recovers, it seems, almost faster than you do. Because I'm using Seth, I know how he works, I'm very good against Seth. I have beaten, in versus mode, hardest difficulty Seth in sets confidently. Because in that mode, it's your Seth. But in the campaign, it's Super Seth. It's Seth with bullshit statistics and bullshit life and all this other nonsense. So it just gets absolutely insane. And unfortunately, this tangent ran longer than the video. But this level's quite simple, so hopefully you don't mind the Street Fighter talk and what have you. But thank you very much for listening. Thank you for watching. And you take care now.